Welcome back to another edition of Between Two FARS. I'm Warnicki Miller, and I am joined once again by Theodore Rowe. Ted is our chief counsel in the legal office here at Johnson Space Center. And we've spent a good deal of time during this series talking about the transformation that NASA's been going through for the last 2 decades. And today we're going to focus on personnel issues, transformation, and the impact on our contracts, particularly contract administration and even contract award, and how our civil servant workforce, or lack thereof, may be impacting our way of doing business in the future. Ted, let's talk about that. What's been going on and what impacts should we be looking to expect?
Yeah, thank you, Warnicki. So let's continue with the collateral consequences and answer Warnicki's question. Basically, what we've had in the past with these traditional DD&T cost reimbursable single awardee contracts was much larger program offices in terms of civil servants in order to support these contracts, because NASA's the owner and operator of the system, because NASA's in charge for design, development, test, evaluation. We've had to have more people, a larger workforce to support these types of contracts. You don't have to look very far just to look at the International Space Station program. Very large program, $3 to $4 billion per year. So you have a lot of people, a standing army in terms of ISIS program officials supporting that. To a lesser extent, Orion and SLS, but you still have a lot of people supporting those programs. And we can compare and contrast that to, these programs that are based on service-based fixed price, generally multi-awardee contracts like CCP, Gateway, EVA, Human Mobility Systems, COM-LEO. These are lean and mean program offices because they don't have to do design, development, test, and evaluation. They have more insight rather than oversight. But this affects us as well, because if as an attorney, if you're used to, for instance, working with a large program where they have much more people to support the day-to-day activities, they generally respond pretty quickly. If you need some facts or you need information in order to help you do your legal analysis, they're pretty responsive because they're motivated to get it done, and they have the people to do it. And they generally have embedded procurement officials as well that have been working in those areas for a long time. You compare and contrast that to these smaller programs where they're trying to do a lot of different things. They're jacks of all trade. It's kind of like a small business versus a large entity working, where in a small business you can be a CFO, you can be the attorney, you could be the salesperson, you could be wear multiple hats. It's very similar for these smaller program offices. So if you are used to a certain way of doing business with large program offices, you more than likely would come to a realization that that's not how a smaller program office works. And this can impact you in little ways that can be actually pretty significant, such as if you ask for additional information, rather than someone responding to you within a day or two, they don't respond to you for a week or maybe never respond to you. So if you're used to being passive, where you would just send an email over the fence because you could pretty much guarantee that they're going to respond to you in a reasonable amount of time, you may have to be more active, where when you send something, you would have to set yourself a reminder to check on that, because you're going to be off busy doing other things as well. It's just the realization that these differences between a large organization and a small organization, they do have collateral consequences in terms of how we work as legal professionals, as well as how we work as procurement professionals.
When we see fewer civil servants and more contractors, and you're dealing with the fact that there's attorney-client privilege and rules about attorneys talking to other parties that might be represented by an attorney, how does that impact the flow of information when you're trying to do a legal analysis?
Yeah, it goes back to kind of what we talked about before, where because under a DD&T contract and NASA has oversight, NASA personnel more than likely has information readily available to them. Compare and contrast that to service-based fixed price contracts where, you know, NASA has more insight. NASA's not the owner and operator, it's just the customer. They may have to go to the contractor and get information from the contractor. So, you know, number one, that's going to result in more time to get information that in the past you may have gotten in 1 or 2 days. And if you're working with a smaller program office that has to deal with service-based contracts, you may not even get that information. They may say it's not available because, you know, we don't have that data, or it may take more time to do it. And they may even ask you to, because they're busy, to offload, you know, don't talk to me anymore. I don't want to be the middleman. Go talk to the contractor. And you know, you really can't do that because you represent NASA. You have to have a civil servant at least in the loop, you know, CC'd on an email, and then that's your client. So those are some of the issues that you have to keep in your mind, you know, as you try to deal with these two types of environments.
Yes, there are a lot of subtle differences that have great impacts on how we're going to be operating going forward. Ted, your insight has been phenomenal and very helpful, because you're giving us that chance to pause now and reflect on what happened, while also looking forward to the future to figure out how we can be more efficient and more ready to meet mission requirements. Thank you so much for the time that you've given us in this transformational series on Between Two FARS. We appreciate your time with us, and we hope we can maybe get you back to talk again sometime soon.